Told my wife my respect for her hinges on her apologizing to our son after she snapped. Now she won't speak to us. My wife and I have 3 children. Thursday was chaos in our house. Our 4-year-old threw up, so I was scrubbing him in the floor, all while my wife tried to help our 9-year-old with her homework. My wife is brilliant at math, but our 9-year-old absolutely dreads it and gets distracted easily, especially when I'm moving around. She kept glancing at me instead of her math worksheet, and my wife's patience was wearing thin. My wife asked our daughter what 7 times 7 was. Our daughter just stared at the paper and said she didn't know. My wife nudged her, any answer at all. But our daughter repeated, almost stubbornly, that she didn't know. My wife was getting increasingly frustrated, and finally, our daughter blurts out, 37. My wife sighs and says, close, 47. From the next room, our 13-year-old pipes up, no, Mom, it's 49. My wife just snapped. She told him to shut up and go upstairs. Instead, he just went out to the backyard, clearly upset. Once I finished getting our 4-year-old settled, I went outside to him. He barely wanted to look at me. But Dad, he kept repeating, almost desperately, 7 times 7 is 49. I tried to explain that his mom was just stressed and didn't mean to yell, but he wasn't having it. He just kept insisting, as if the correctness of his answer needed my validation. Eventually, I went back inside to talk to my wife. She already looked worn out and guilty, saying she knew she probably shouldn't have snapped. She explained she was frustrated because our son was distracting her, and that's why she blurted out the wrong answer. I gently reminded her the mistake came before he said anything. That hit her hard, and she started crying, feeling like I was piling on. I apologized, told her I loved her, and we hugged. But the air was still thick with tension. I asked her if she was going to apologize to our 13-year-old. She shook her head, saying he needed to learn not to interrupt, that it was rude. But I told her I didn't think it was okay for her to tell him to shut up. We argued, going back and forth, and finally, I said something that hurt her. I wouldn't be able to respect her as much if she didn't apologize to him. That stung. She said she needed space. Since Thursday, she hasn't spoken to me or to our son. I know my words were harsh, but I can't help feeling that apologizing for a mistake is basic decency, especially with our kids. My sister thinks I'm being too rigid, that I should understand how challenging our 13-year-old can be, but I just can't let go of how important it is to own up to mistakes. Update 1. I followed my wife upstairs, my heart pounding as I insisted that we needed to talk. She just kept shaking her head, refusing to meet my eyes. Without a word, she slipped into our 4-year-old's room and locked the door behind her, leaving me standing in the hallway, frozen with worry and confusion. Unsure what to do, I went downstairs to find our 13 and 9-year-old. I mustered a smile and told them we were going to the dog park. They immediately looked concerned and asked if Mom was okay. I reassured them, telling them yes, that she just needed some space right now. My words felt hollow even as I spoke them. I grabbed some clothes for our 9-year-old from the laundry room and handed them off so she could get changed quickly in the downstairs bathroom. My mind was racing the entire time, replaying the moment on the stairs over and over. Now, we're at the dog park. The air is fresh, and the dogs are running free, but I can't focus on anything except my phone. I keep checking for a response, texting my wife, hoping she'll finally reply. But nothing, she's refusing to answer any of my texts. A sinking feeling grows in my chest, and I can't shake it. I'm starting to think this isn't just about math. Update 2. At the dog park, I took the opportunity to talk with our 13-year-old. There was so much going on at home, and I could see he was struggling to make sense of it. I explained to him that sometimes, when people are overwhelmed, the next thing that comes along, good, bad, or even neutral, can be what finally pushes them over the edge. Often, they end up lashing out at the source of that thing, even if that source is innocent. I tried to reassure him that what happened with his mom wasn't his fault and that she didn't truly mean to lash out at him. I told him she was embarrassed by her behavior, and that's why she was avoiding him. He just kept saying it wasn't fair, and I didn't disagree. Of course it wasn't. We went back and forth. I wanted more than anything for him to understand he hadn't done anything wrong and shouldn't shoulder the blame, but his mind kept circling back to the unfairness of it all. I acknowledged it. I told him that no, it wasn't fair, but his mom is human, and humans make mistakes, just as he does sometimes. And when he slips up, we forgive him simply because we love him, and maybe, if he could forgive his mom, even when she's wrong, that could be a way to show he loves her, too, but I made sure to tell him he'd never have to do that if he didn't want to. Still, he stayed stuck on the injustice. And honestly, I understood. It really is unfair. Afterward, I dropped our 13-year-old off at a friend's house and our 9-year-old at a friend of mine's. Then I went home and made dinner. But my wife decided to take our 4-year-old out for dinner, so she didn't come home until after I'd put everything away. It was time to talk. With the older kids gone, I told her that avoiding the conversation couldn't go on any longer. I said we had to talk, and if she kept shutting me out, I'd call our sisters to come help mediate. She was furious, but it finally got her to open up. She told me everything. She's drowning. Work is draining her, and every day when she gets home, her patience is already gone. The ongoing issues with our 4-year-old's health, especially his stomach problems, have her scared and upset, especially since he'd thrown up again at dinner. She admitted she couldn't take our 13-year-old's behavior anymore. When she insisted that he's spoiled and entitled, comparing his behavior to what would have happened if we'd interrupted our parents at his age, it hit me. She's been simmering with frustration for a long time. She went on about never getting peace in our home because of our talkative, noisy teen. I pushed back, gently. I reminded her that we were already working on those behaviors, our son was getting better. But she lashed out when he was trying to be helpful, and now he's just hurt and confused. She shot back that I wasn't supporting her, that things need to change now. She demanded stricter consequences: take away the recorder if he plays it after bedtime, send him straight to his room for interrupting, remove privileges for arguing. I told her we needed to pause, to step back from making these sweeping decisions while she was this overwhelmed. I suggested, just as I'd heard from others, that she decompress, that maybe a few days in a hotel alone would help her reset. But she insisted she wasn't the problem. He was. She went so far as to say our son was bad from the beginning. She compared him to our daughter and our 4-year-old, implying that because they didn't have these same issues, the problem had to be him. That stung. She also accused me of seeing this all along and then hiding it to make her look like the problem. Years ago, I used to joke that our 13-year-old was a changeling, because he's always loved the outdoors, animals, and especially playing his recorder. It was always a joke, but I stopped when I noticed it didn't amuse her anymore. She said that even back then, I'd seen there was something wrong but stopped admitting it, making her feel isolated. Then she dropped one more revelation: she'd been seeing an online therapist. She hadn't told me out of embarrassment. Apparently, her therapist had said our son shows dangerous tendencies and contempt toward women because he doesn't respect his mother. I was left speechless. I told her that any therapist making such accusations about a child they'd never actually met shouldn't be practicing at all, let alone online where credentials can't easily be verified. Ultimately, she agreed to go to a hotel, but only if she could take our 4-year-old with her, since she wanted to be there for his medical appointment. I didn't think that was a good idea at all, but she left with him anyway. I picked up the older kids and brought them home. They could sense something was wrong. They were unusually quiet that morning as we got ready for school. I spoke to my boss when I arrived at work. Fortunately, he's letting me leave early so I can go to our 4-year-old's medical appointment, though I have no idea how that will go. Right now, I'm just hoping for good news, anything to bring us all a little relief from this tension. I can see clear as day that my wife needs real help. The anger she's directing at our son runs deep and is becoming dangerous for everyone in the family. She does need a break, desperately so. Maybe when our youngest stomach issues settle, I can get all the kids out of the house for a while, just so she can rest, and then we can reassess everything. Every parent stumbles through dark times. But the extremes we're living now aren't healthy, and something's got to change. My wife just doesn't have the coping skills she needs right now, and she needs more support, better tools, than I can give her alone. For all of us, I need to figure out what comes next. Update 3. I picked up our 4-year-old from his doctor's appointment the following day. My wife stayed alone at the hotel both Monday and Tuesday nights. By Wednesday, she told me that she had quit her job, but it turned out to be a lie. A concerned coworker reached out to me and revealed the truth. She was actually suspended for yelling at another coworker and telling them to shut up. On Wednesday, she picked up the kids from school and daycare. When they were asleep that night, I confronted her about the lies. A big fight erupted between us, and she ended up leaving to stay with my sister. Thanks to my sister's influence, she finally faced the situation. With my sister at her side, she called her boss and managed to negotiate a compromise. She wouldn't be fired, but would take some mental health leave instead. She didn't see the kids all weekend, not even when my sister picked them up on Sunday to take them to a party. Finally, she's back home now. So here's where the update starts. Update 4. My daughter doesn't have a learning disability. After a long talk with her teacher, I learned her math skills are perfectly average for her age group. The teacher explained that the struggle she's showing at home is likely because she feels pressured, not because she can't do the work. That hit me hard. I realized that we've probably been pushing too much, tying her sense of accomplishment so tightly to our approval, that the pressure made something perfectly ordinary feel impossible. So, I sat her down and told her she can take as much time as she needs to do her homework. I also gave her the option to ask her brother to check her work, so neither her mother nor I would know if she made any mistakes. The relief on her face was immediate and genuine. She was so happy with this new arrangement. I have to admit, I bear a lot of responsibility here. In our eagerness to encourage her to work hard and do well, my wife and I became overcritical. It's clear now that we've been holding the bar too high sometimes. Meanwhile, our 4-year-old son had been constantly vomiting, and after a long string of doctor's visits, we discovered he's allergic to soy. Ever since I stopped feeding him anything with soy in it, the vomiting stopped completely. Now he's finally doing much better. Soon, he'll be reintroduced to soy in tiny, controlled doses to see if he can acclimate. The improvement has taken a huge weight off my shoulders. The constant anxiety and stress over his health was starting to take its toll on our whole family. As for my wife, there's been real progress there, too. She took the time to apologize to our son, and told me that talking things through with my sister really helped her. That led to a deeper conversation between us. She finally opened up and told me why she's been so on edge and lashing out. She said it hit her hard that the 3 kids we have we aren't going to have any more children. She confessed to being worried that our kids are growing up too soft, too spoiled, and that they're not standing out like she hoped. She wants them to surpass their peers, but right now, she doesn't see that happening. In her frustration, she started to wish she could bring some of her father's old school, strict, parenting into our lives. I took a hard stance. I told her flatly that I'd never be okay with that kind of authoritarian approach, and that would be the line for me, a deal breaker. At the same time, I challenged her about how her stress with our parenting translated to her lashing out at work. I suspected her issues might be rooted more deeply, particularly with not being able to control people, and I confronted her with that. She told me I was being unfair, so I apologized. Still, I stood by what I'd said. We agreed on a compromise. Until she leaves for her trip with my sister, she'll try to relax and take space whenever she feels herself getting too stressed. We promised to revisit the topic of parenting strategies again after she comes back from her trip. What she doesn't know is that I've already hired a lawyer. If she comes back and insists on forcing a strict, authoritarian regime onto our kids, I'll raise the possibility of divorce. I love my wife, but my first duty is to our children. Their well-being comes before anything else. Update 5. 2 days after my last update, the school called me in the middle of a meeting. He's not in trouble, the secretary said first, and my heart landed where it belonged. But Mr. wanted to talk to you at pickup. I showed up early and found our 13-year-old sitting outside the office, balancing a history book on his knees, recorder case at his feet. He shot me that cautious look he wears whenever he thinks I might have bad news in my pocket. Mr. explained that in math, our son raised his hand and then, when the teacher didn't see him, he said, "Excuse me, I think the product is 49, not 47. No attitude, no snickering. Just a correction." The teacher paused, checked the problem, and admitted our son was right. He was respectful, Mr. said. He was also right. Then he smiled. I'm moving him to the peer tutor list. He's good at explaining why things are the way they are. On the way out, he opened the recorder case and started playing that Zelda song he's been practicing on a loop since Christmas. The band director happened to be walking by and stopped. "You've got good breath support," she told him. She asked if he wanted to try clarinet, handed him a disinfected mouthpiece from her bag, and the kid made a sound that wasn't a squeak on his very first try. She gave him a loner. He didn't talk, didn't look at me, just cradled that thing all the way to the car like the world's most fragile bird. My wife left for the trip with my sister the next morning. She kissed the kids goodbye and hugged me like someone planning to move to a different country. In the car, I watched her buckle our 4-year-old stuffed frog into his booster seat and whisper to it, "Guard the house." She hasn't done something that gentle in weeks. It shook me. While she was on the road, I asked her to do a joint session with her online therapist so I could understand what they were saying to her. "Just one," I texted. She said okay if my sister stayed with her during the call. 15 minutes into the session, my stomach was in my shoes. The woman on the screen corrected me when I called her a therapist. "Parent coach," she said, tilting her head. She never met our son. She's never met any of us. Yet she was comfortable saying things like reclaim dominance and don't apologize if you want to keep respect. When I asked about the contempt toward women line my wife had repeated to me, she didn't blink, just said, "It's a pattern I see in many households when the mother's authority is constantly challenged." I asked which evidence-based framework that came from. She pivoted to talking points. My wife went quiet. My sister, bless her, said, "I think we're done here," as gently as anyone has ever said a sentence like that. After the call, my wife sent me one message: "I think I picked someone who tells me things that feel strong but make everything weaker." She didn't say more. She didn't have to. That afternoon, I swung by daycare with the 9-year-old to pick up our 4-year-old. There was a plate of crackers on the table by the door, one of those communal snack setups that never crossed my mind, until soy became a word I could taste on the air. Our 13-year-old got to the plate before I did, stopped, read the label, and said, clear as a bell, "These have soy lecithin." "He can't have that." He turned to the teacher. "He can't have that," again, slower. The teacher's face fell. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, thank you." Our son knelt down and told his brother, "These aren't for you, bud. We have better ones in the car. Want to hear a song?" He took out that stupid recorder and played a wobbling, half-hummed version of the Zelda song while we walked to the car, like a parade just for one small person. I took a picture of the label and sent it to my wife with a note. He caught it. She asked if she could call. She cried when she thanked him. I put her on speaker, and he said, "You're welcome, Mom," with all the solemn pride of a medal ceremony. When they hung up, he was quiet for a long time, then said, "I like when she sounds like a person and not like a teacher." The next day, there was a knock at our door just after dinner. The kind of knock that makes your back go straight. A woman with a lanyard and the softest voice I've ever heard said she was following up on a report, nothing specific, just a welfare check. She sat at our table and asked me to walk her through how we handle discipline, what our routines look like, whether there are any ongoing health issues. The kids wandered in and out like cats. Our 9-year-old showed her a sketch of a dog in a tutu. Our 13-year-old stood by the doorway, listening hard. At one point the social worker asked if anyone had said shut up to him. He looked at me, then at her, and said, "My mom said it once when she was having a bad day. She apologized to me." He didn't add anything else. He didn't have to. The woman asked him what he does when he's upset. "I go to the backyard," he said. "And then I come back." When she left, she said she'd suggest a parenting class through the community center, not because she saw a problem, but because most families could use more tools. "You've got good kids," she said at the door. "You can tell when a house is scary. This one isn't." After I closed the door, I sat on the stairs and called my sister. "Someone reported us," I told her. She went very, very quiet, and then said, "It might be the best thing that could have happened, because she will hear that differently from anyone else." I debated telling my wife right then. I waited until she texted that she and my sister had gone to see their dad. They hadn't intended to. They were driving past the old neighborhood and my sister turned without asking, that kind of muscle memory. My father-in-law opened the door and looked exactly like he did at our wedding, stern and silent, nothing wasted. He asked my wife if she wanted tea. She said yes. In the background, I could hear him telling my sister that the honey was in the same place it's been for 20 years. My wife told me she felt 16 again within 5 minutes. She said she could feel exactly where in her stomach that old shallow breathing lived. "Please don't be mad," I said, and then I told her about the welfare check. There was a long pause. "Did they think I hit him?" she asked. "No," I said. "They asked." I told them no. He told them no. Another long pause. "I don't want to be the reason someone comes to our door," she said finally, small. "I don't want to be dad." When she got home from the trip, she asked me for the number of the pediatrician and our insurance portal. She sat at the kitchen table and made appointments, one with a local, actual child psychologist who does family work, one for the community parenting class, and one to meet with HR about her return to work plan. She stopped hiding in the bedroom when she got overwhelmed. She started saying, "I need 5 minutes," and taking them. The first time she did it, our 13-year-old nodded like he'd been waiting his whole life to be told exactly what to do with the tension in the room. At the first parent-only therapy session, the psychologist didn't let either of us make speeches. She asked what we wanted our house to feel like when our kids are 30 and come home. My wife said, "Safe, but not lazy." I said, "Like themselves." We left with homework that did not involve sticker charts or color-coded consequences. It was stranger than that. We have to say out loud what we're proud of in each kid's behavior every day and mean it. My wife laughed when the psychologist said it, the kind of sharp laugh you give when you are being told to do something obviously basic. The psychologist smiled. "That laugh is what we're going to work on," she said. On the drive home, my wife squeezed my knee at a stoplight and whispered, "I don't laugh like that because I think it's stupid. I laugh like that because I'm terrified it won't be enough." That night, our daughter showed my wife a worksheet with 4 wrong answers circled, 2 right ones left blank, and a smiley face drawn next to try again. My wife put the worksheet down and asked if she wanted to bake with her after dinner instead. "Can I mess up?" our daughter asked. "Yes," my wife said, and then, softer, "Please." They made burnt cookies. Our 9-year-old ate 3 and called them heroic. The clarinet has changed our house by inches. The recorder lives in its case now. The band director sent an email saying our son could switch instruments officially if he wanted. She said he has a ear. He plays quietly, the way someone does when they are making sure they are not a burden. The other night, he stopped mid-scale and asked me how to spell appreciate. When I asked why, he showed me a draft of a text to his mom. "I appreciate the apology." He didn't send it. He said he didn't want to make her feel like she owed him something every time they talked. He just wanted to say it once. The next morning, he told her to have a good day at therapy. She blinked like he'd handed her a map to a place she forgot existed. I haven't told her about the lawyer. I have the packet in a drawer with the expired passports and the birth certificates, where it feels like a document about not now. I don't want it. I also sleep better knowing I am not bluffing when I say there are lines. She asked me last night if I still meant it, about authoritarian parenting being a deal breaker. I told her yes, and I told her I wished more than anything that we could build something in the middle that felt firm without being cruel. She looked at the stack of burnt cookies our daughter had made a second batch of and said, "Firm like taking them out on time." I said, "Or checking the ingredients before you feed them to someone you love." This morning, the community center sent an email confirming her spot in the parenting class. She forwarded it to me with one sentence, "I'm trying." I sent back, "I can see it." Our kids were already in the car, arguing about which playlist to put on. Our 13-year-old solved it by playing one song on the clarinet while our 4-year-old played along on a kazoo from a birthday party. It was awful. It was perfect. For the first time in weeks, I didn't want to be anywhere else. Update 6. The parenting class meets in a room that smells like dry erase markers and a decade of coffee. There's a crooked poster about emotion coaching and a bowl of dollar store mints next to a stack of index cards. The facilitator, gray hair and a broom of a ponytail, voice like a freight train somehow whispering, tells us to write one sentence about what we want our home to feel like in 5 years. My wife sits with the pen hovering, then writes, "Quiet courage," and slides the card to the top of the pile like she's trying to get rid of it before she cries on it. Mine says, "No one bracing." We practice repair statements out loud to strangers. It feels ridiculous until it doesn't. On the drive home she says, I hate that I need this, and then, after a few blocks, I'm glad we went. 2 days later at the family therapist's office, our son perches on the edge of a too soft couch like a bird deciding whether the branch will hold. The therapist asks him what he's trying to do when he speaks up. He doesn't look at her, he watches the aquarium's only fish in its lazy figure eight. Make things easier, he says. My wife flinches, like somebody pressed a bruise. The therapist nods like he's given the right answer on a test she didn't write. She hands us a little plastic heart with 2 finger-sized dents in it and says, let's invent a pause button. It becomes a signal. If he touches the heart with 2 fingers and holds it up, he's asking to speak without barging. If she touches her own shoulder, it's I hear you, give me a minute. We sit there, grown adults, practicing putting our hands in the air and then waiting. The fish keeps swimming. It feels stupid and revolutionary at the same time. We got to use it the very next night. Dinner was late, nobody had started homework, and our 4-year-old was standing in the middle of the kitchen saying, I'm hungry. Now, like a declaration of war. I was draining pasta, my wife was reading pasta sauce labels for soy like an archaeologist, and our 9-year-old was sighing into a fraction worksheet. Our 13-year-old walked in, took in the scene, and I could see the correction forming on his face like weather. He stopped. He touched 2 fingers to the heart magnet the therapist gave us, now stuck to the fridge next to the school calendar. My wife froze, then pressed her hand to her shoulder. 1 minute, she said. He nodded, looked down, and waited. We all breathed. She read the label twice and set the jar on the counter. Okay, she said, looking at him. He pointed at the fraction our daughter was frowning at and said, if you cut the pizza into 8 slices and eat 3, that's less than half, and then turn the jar so the ingredients were facing her. Also, this one is safe. My wife laughed, not the sharp laugh, the other one. Thank you, she said, to both of them. The pasta was mediocre. It was the best dinner I've had all month. The letter from the agency came the same day, case screened out, no further action. I set it on the counter and stared at it until my wife came home. She read it once, twice, then sat down and put her head in her hands. I earned that, she said, the words barely there. I told her it can be scary and still be useful. She picked up the paper and folded it in half, then in half again, like she was trying to make it small enough to swallow. I don't want them to have that as a story about me, she said. I told her they'll have all kinds of stories, we can't make them neat. We can try to make them true. My father-in-law showed up on our porch Saturday morning with a jar of honey and a paper grocery bag. The knock had his signature on it, 3 precise taps. He came in and stood just inside the door like he was measuring the air. He handed me the honey, then pushed the bag toward our son. Garage clean out, he said. Inside was an old metronome and a hard case that used to be black and was now the color of old pennies. Our son opened it like it might bite him. Inside was a clarinet, not delicate like the school's loaner, but heavy, the keywork dulled, the bell nicked. My father-in-law cleared his throat. It was mine, he said, and then, like it cost extra, Army band. My wife blinked. I have known that man for 15 years and had no idea he ever did anything that required sitting. He watched our son cradle the instrument and said, reeds are in the little tin. Don't chew them. He didn't say anything else for a long time. Then he looked at my wife and said, your mother used to burn cookies because she tried to do too many things at once. My wife leaned against the counter like a person who has been handed a fact that rearranged the furniture in her head. When he left, he put his hand on our son's shoulder for exactly 1 second, the way a person might check a pot on the stove to see if it's warm. Practice kindly, he said. It was the gentlest thing I've ever heard come out of his mouth. At work, HR sat my wife in a glass-walled room and talked to her about re-entry plans like she was coming back from orbit. She texted me a picture of a page that said phase schedule in bold letters, followed by bullets. There was a coffee ring on the corner. Later, she told me she found her coworker in the break room and said, I'm sorry I told you to shut up. No ifs, no buts. The coworker stared at her, then said, me too, and laughed in a way that made it clear neither of them was sure what to do with their hands. My wife's voice sounded different telling me about it, like a tight string being loosened with careful fingers. The allergist's office keeps the lights low and the chairs too close together. They put exactly half a grain of soy flour in applesauce and let our 4-year-old eat it with the solemnity of a science experiment. He didn't throw up. He did look at us both a dozen times as if to ask, is this okay? Our 13-year-old waited in the hall and played long tones so quietly you could forget there was a note at all. A nurse cracked the door and said, you can keep doing that. Whatever that is, it's helpful. Our 9-year-old drew a picture of the frog in a lab coat giving a thumbs up. On the way out our youngest said, I did brave, like he'd set a record. We bought him a donut on the way home and checked the ingredients 3 times before he took a bite. We had our first family appreciation dinner without anybody rolling their eyes. I went first because I was told to go first. I said I was proud our son used the heart instead of the correction. I said I was proud our daughter asked for help before the tears arrived. I said I was proud our 4-year-old tried a scary thing with the seriousness it deserved. My wife stared at the table like she was reading fortunes in the wood grain and then said, I'm proud I took 5 minutes and came back, as if saying it out loud created a path she could walk again later. Our son looked at her and said, "Me too," and then stuffed a piece of bread in his mouth like he'd said more than he meant to. He slipped the heart magnet off the fridge afterward and put it in his clarinet case. Not everything is tidy. I found myself touching the drawer with the lawyer's packet 3 times that week without opening it, like checking a lock. It still sits with the birth certificates, now under a tangle of expired library cards and a single rubber band that used to belong to broccoli. I like knowing it's there, I like needing it less. Tonight my wife stood in the doorway of the boys' room and watched our 13-year-old show his little brother how to wet a reed without sinking it. "It's like making tea," he said. "You don't boil it, you just make it think about being hot." Our 4-year-old nodded gravely, as if he understood physics. Our 9-year-old came in with a bowl of popcorn and asked if she could read instead of watch. Their arguing about what to put on only lasted 2 minutes and didn't draw blood. My wife leaned her head against the doorframe and whispered, not to anybody in particular, "Guard the house." The frog on the nightstand stared at her with his stitched-on smile like he had always been on duty. I don't know if we're doing it right. I know that when our son packed up the old clarinet today, he slid a folded piece of paper into the case before the reed, and later I found it on the kitchen counter because he forgot it. In his awful, careful handwriting, it said, "Thank you for apologizing. I'm trying to be easier to love." I put it back in the case. I told him to have a good day at school and he told me to have a good day at therapy, even though I wasn't going. I didn't correct him. It felt like the right benediction anyway.